We can't wait for SEC football in 2021, and especially can't wait for these non-conference showdowns with the other Power 5 conferences. These are our top 10 non-conference games for the SEC. Please like the video, share the videos out on social media, and please subscribe right here for coverage on the SEC every day. Let's get to it. Leave your game suggestions down below, what games you really want to see more than anything else this season. At number 10, we've got a September 11th date with North Carolina State taking on Mississippi State. Despite their final records at 8-4 for the Wolfpack and just 4-7 for the Bulldogs, it was the Bulldogs who won their bowl game over Tulsa, much like the rest of the SEC, while the ACC had another downer during the postseason play, and NC State was another victim, losing to a below 500 Kentucky team. Dak Prescott's final game in college was Mississippi State's last matchup with the NC State. Dak threw for 4 touchdowns, and Mississippi State drubbed NC State 51-28 in the 2015 Belk Bowl. All right. Second season for Mike Leach. Will he get his passing offense untracked? Of course, they had that stellar performance in Week 1 last year with KJ Costello throwing for an SEC record 623 yards against LSU, and for the rest of the season, the Bulldog passing offense was non-existent. Will Rogers should be the starter this year. Again, Mike Leach is masterminding his offense all offseason. We'll see what he's got in store this season. That's a Week 2 matchup against NC State. The Wolfpack should be led at quarterback by Devin Leary, who should be recovered from a broken leg. He was off to a nice 4-game start for the Wolfpack last year at 8 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He's got his top receiving threat back, Emeka Emezi, who was a super senior coming back here, bypassed the NFL draft to come back after 47 catches and 5 touchdowns for NC State in 2020. Again, it's NC State taking on Mississippi State on September 11th. Game number 9, traditional rivalry battle here with Kentucky taking on Louisville. Again, the Cardinals, a downer for Scott Satterfield and company. There were high expectations for Louisville in 2020. They only went 4-7, Kentucky at 5-6, but they did have the aforementioned bowl win against NC State. Of course, this is a Thanksgiving weekend showdown for the Bluegrass State. Malik Cunningham coming back for his 5th season at Louisville, 20 touchdowns and 12 picks. He is very hot and cold, needs to find consistency in his final season with the Cardinals. Liam Cohen comes in from the NFL's Los Angeles Chargers to take over the Kentucky offense. Who will be his quarterback? Most believe that's going to be Auburn transfer Joey Gatewood. He's got the highest ceiling, but you also have Bo Allen and Penn State transfer Will Levis in play for the Wildcats. Kentucky leads this series 17-15, and they blew out the Cardinals last year 45-13. Game number 8 on our SEC countdown of the top 10 non-conference games is Florida State. That on November 27th, Thanksgiving weekend. And, of course, this is one of the great rivalries in college football. But it's been blowout fashion for Dan Mullen and the Gators the last 2 years at 41-14 and 40-17. Florida State coming off a dismal 3-6 campaign, and they weren't even that good. They were awful. If Mackenzie Milton, the UCF transfer, who threw 37 touchdowns and 4,000 yards plus in 2017, if he is still on the field and starting for Florida State by this game on the last day of the season, that's going to be an unbelievable sign coming off that gruesome leg injury. So if he can play the full season, Florida State should be in decent shape to have a bit of a bounce-back year despite a difficult schedule for them. And this one of 2 rough non-conference games as Florida State opens up against Notre Dame. Gators lead the all-time series 36-26-2. Florida, of course, loses most of its offensive firepower with Kyle Trask, Kyle Pitts, Kadarius Toney, and company gone. They're going to be more ground and pound for the Gators this year with Emory Jones at quarterback. Florida State, traditional rivalry, November 27th. Game number 7, Ole Miss taking on Louisville. This one will be played in Atlanta on the Labor Day weekend, Monday night. Rebels coming in at 5-5, but they capped off that 2020 season with an upset win over number 11 Indiana in the Outback Bowl. Louisville, again, the aforementioned 4-7 disappointment for 2020. The Rebs are excited as can be about this second season. Lane Kiffin recruited defense in that 2021 class. Probably most of those players will not be able to contribute this fall necessarily, but expect defense to be improved for Ole Miss. The offense brings back Matt Corral at quarterback, and when he wasn't throwing interceptions in the losses, he was mighty impressive. Elijah Moore is going to be missed, of course. 86 catches, multiple touchdowns for Elijah Moore. He's gone, but the top three running backs, including Jerrion Ely, back for the Rebs. They all combined for 1,500 yards and 16 touchdowns. John Rice Plumlee, former quarterback, worked the slot against Indiana in the bowl game and set up the game-winning touchdown pass, and he's back in the slot. He is converted from quarterback to wide receiver. Rebs and Cardinals, they have never played. We'll get to see it on Labor Day night. Game number 6 on our countdown of the top 10 non-conference games in the SEC. Texas A&M going out to Denver to take on Colorado. Not at the Buffs' home field of Folsom Field in Boulder, but they're playing at the NFL Stadium in Denver on September 11th. Carl Durrell, in his first year at Colorado, did a fine job as the Buffs made it to the Alamo Bowl and finished at 4-2. Kellen Mond, of course, gone, but Texas A&M has just about everything else back. 15 of 22 starters, 20 of 22 of the two deep on defense, a top 5 defense in the country from last year. The quarterback battle at Texas A&M is going to be a fierce one, but an inexperienced trio of talented players and true freshman Haynes King, redshirt freshman Zach Calzada, and, of course, freshman Eli Stowers. The last time the Buffs and the Aggies met on the field, Colorado got the best of Texas A&M in 2009 at 35-34. Texas A&M, coming off that fine 9-1 top 4 finish, looks to challenge Alabama in the SEC West if they can figure out the quarterback position, and we will see what they have in Denver against the Buffaloes in Week 2. Colorado, Texas A&M, Pac-12 versus SEC. On September 11th as well, we've got Texas taking on Arkansas as we have a throwback to the old Southwest Conference days when Texas takes on Arkansas. Love this matchup. These two teams should be playing more often. Texas leads the series 56-22. Arkansas, though, won the final matchup in a big way at the 2014 Texas Bowl 31-6. Casey Thompson looked amazing against Colorado in the bowl game. KJ Jefferson should be the starting quarterback in replacing Felipe Franks for Arkansas. KJ Jefferson has had his most notable time at quarterback for Arkansas against Missouri and almost pulling off a comeback win in that one. He threw for 274 yards and 3 touchdowns on the road. Early enrollee Lucas Coley and also Malik Hornsby will push Jefferson for the Arkansas quarterback job. Texas, Arkansas should be a great one, September 11th at Razorback Stadium. Our game number 4 pits LSU going all the way out to the Rose Bowl to take on UCLA. Of course, the Bayou Bengals off the national championship in 2019, a disappointing 5-5 finish despite 2 consecutive wins to close out the season against Ole Miss and Florida. UCLA seemed to be much improved, but it only resulted in a 3-4 finish for the Bruins, but they took USC to the wire in the finale. This LSU offseason has been loaded with turmoil off the field. And, of course, the transfer of Eric Gilbert, we're still awaiting his status. He may possibly come back to Baton Rouge and play for LSU this season. It's possible. LSU is going to be loaded on defense. And, of course, the quarterback battle will ensue despite a fine start to the season in 2020 from Miles Brennan. TJ Finley and Max Johnson also will battle for the job. Dorian Thompson-Robinson of UCLA had his finest season by far, 12 touchdowns and 4 picks as he's finally maturing. And Chip Kelly's got to win at some point or is going to be ousted, you would think, at UCLA. The last time an SEC team visited the Rose Bowl was 4 years ago when Kevin Sumlin and Texas A&M thrashed UCLA through the first three quarters, and then Josh Rosen led a historic comeback, 45-44 UCLA over Texas A&M. The Bruins and the Tigers have never met. UCLA taking on LSU, the first of a home-and-home series as the Bruins come back to Baton Rouge in 2024. Game number 3, we've got a good one between the SEC and the Big Ten. Auburn and Penn State. Tigers went 6-5 last year, and the Nittany Lions just 4-5. Key season for James Franklin, you would think, coming off 4 top 15 finishes, a couple New Year's Six bowl victories, but then they fell apart last year early, losing their first 5 games before rallying to finish at 4-5. Sean Clifford's back at quarterback for Penn State. All right, Brian Harsin, of course, in his first season taking over for Gus Malzahn. It looks to be a bit of a rebuilding year for Auburn football. Huge game for Bo Nix going on the road. He has played well in these spots. Think back a season to 2019 and the opener in his first collegiate start against Oregon, where he pulled out the win in the final seconds of that showdown with the Ducks. It's Auburn, Penn State. The last time they met was in the 2003 Capital One Bowl. Ronnie Brown scored late to lead Auburn to the win 13-9. They also met in the 1994 Outback Bowl. Penn State throttled Auburn in that one 43-14. Auburn travels to Happy Valley on September 18th as our third best non-conference game in the SEC this season. All right, number 2. Alabama, Miami, September 4th in Atlanta. The Tide, of course, won the national championship, the only undefeated team in college football. They're having to replace just about everything on offense in regards to veteran experience production. Yes, they do have guys like John Mechie, one of the best wide receivers in college football, no doubt. They have to replace 3 offensive line starters. So maybe, just maybe, there's an opportunity for a veteran Miami team led by a veteran quarterback in De'Ara King coming off an awful injury, but he's ahead of schedule, should be ready for the opener to possibly catch Alabama before the offense can gel. I'm giving the Canes some hope in this one. It's Alabama taking on Miami in week 1. Of course, they met for the national championship at the 1993 Sugar Bowl. Alabama pulled off the upset 34-13 just 4 years later, or 4 years after Miami won over Alabama to complete a national championship season in the Sugar Bowl 33-25. All right, now to game number 1. And this most likely is not just the number 1 game in involving SEC teams in non-conference play, but maybe the best non-conference game of the season and maybe the best game of the season. We shall see. Probably the most talent on one field for one game that's regular season scheduled. Georgia, Clemson in Charlotte. JT Daniels took over the final 4 regular season games and played well for the Bulldogs. He's got just about his complement of offensive weapons back. Couple offensive line starters gone for the Bulldogs, but they're bringing back more players than they had anticipated. More guys who had that NFL draft decision for the Bulldogs opted to come back. Georgia's loaded. All right, of course, DJ Uiagalelei back at quarterback for Clemson. He got some valuable experience going to Notre Dame, putting up 40-plus points against the Irish. Also played against Boston College and Syracuse. Justin Ross, one of the best wide receivers in college football, back for Clemson as well after missing all of 2020. That Clemson defensive line may be something close to what we saw with that all-time great defensive line for the Clemson Tigers in 2018. Georgia leads this series 42-18 with 4 ties. The last time these two teams got together was in 2014, and the Bulldogs blasted Clemson 45-21. This should be a phenomenal game, and one that is going to start to shape the college football playoff race, even though the loser should be in good shape as long as they lose a close game. September 4th in Charlotte. Clemson, Georgia. Number one game of the non-conference season in the SEC and probably in all of college football. All right, that's our top 10. Would love to hear from you down in the comments section. Please like the videos. Share these videos out on social media, because think of it this way. If you enjoy the discussion, the debate, and the analysis, others will as well. So please share the videos on social media and subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football, SEC.